It's just an absolute debacle through that area. A lot of people are giving up on the Carl and they're going towards the Harbour Tunnel instead.
Call 1300 222 702.
SMS 19922 702.
And email deborah@your.abc.net.au.
Mornings with Deborah Cameron
On 702 ABC Sydney.
You'll see them on Saturday and sometimes midweek. Long queues outside one apartment or one house where everybody is trying to get a look so that they can decide whether they'd like to rent it. And just a back of the envelope type calculation, it would appear that sometimes it's 20 to 1. You'll see 20 people queued up, just one house. So the tenants, potential tenants, have perhaps less power than they should have in this marketplace at the moment, and some moves by landlords or by agents working in league with landlords have worried the tenants' union because they seem to be undermining even further the rights and protections of tenants. Chris Martin is the Senior Policy Officer with the Tenants' Union of New South Wales. Chris, good morning.
Good morning, Deborah.
Now, tell us about this new database called Ticker and what it actually does.
Ticker's been around for many years. What we're worried about right now is a new service they're offering landlords, or real estate agents rather. Look, the tenant database has been around for years. So many people know it as a tenant blacklist or a bad tenant database. Tenants get listed on it if they owe money or there's been some other dispute with the agent. The new development is that Ticker's offering a service where real estate agents can enter their current tenants' personal names and personal information into this piece of software. Doesn't matter if they're current tenants, doesn't matter if they've done anything wrong. Enter the names in and the agent will get an automatic email alert whenever a current tenant applies for a tenancy with another Ticker member. There's this email tip-off that gets sent to the current agent whenever you apply elsewhere.
Now, how do you think this affects tenants?
Well, the email tip-off comes with the contact details of the agent to whom you've applied and where you've applied. So the current agent could get in touch with them. They could cruel your application if they actually want to keep you on the books. They might spoil your application by saying, "Oh, don't rent to this person," or it just might mean that it's you might receive from your current agent some less favourable treatment, perhaps. Maybe you've asked for repairs to be done and now the agent isn't going to do that because they think that you're looking elsewhere.
Now, what do you think that it sounds anti-competitive. Is it legal?
We think it's against the law. Currently in New South Wales, agents are subject to a rule of conduct about the way they use tenancy databases like Ticker. And the rule says you can only list people on a tenant database in certain circumstances. That is when the tenancy's ended and where there's particular reasons for listing a person. We think that this new service means it involves listing current tenants who haven't done anything wrong, and that's a breach of the rule of conduct. So we're calling on the state government now to take some action and to say clearly to agents, you may be in breach of your rule of conduct if you use this service.
Now, I think that what's interesting also is the difference between how this service works if, for example, you use it as almost similar to a credit checking type service. So someone comes into you, they say that something, and you run them over the database and make sure that they haven't skipped the rent at some other place. I mean, that's perfectly...
That's traditionally how tenant databases have operated. It's been a way of vetting information provided by tenants or prospective tenants when they're applying for tenancies. We've had concerns for a long time about the way they operate in that traditional role. There's probably a lot of information on the databases that shouldn't be there. But yes, you're right. That's the traditional way they've operated, and they've justified that role in terms of risk management. And this new service doesn't have any justification like that. It really is a gross invasion of people's privacy.
Chris, thank you very much for bringing it to our attention today. Chris Martin is Senior Policy Officer with the Tenants Union of New South Wales. Philip Nunes is Managing Director of TICA Australia. Philip, good morning.
Good morning.
Now, you've heard Chris's remarks there. Are there... It seems on the face of it that there might be anti-competitive problems here because the tenant is being denied the right to take his or her custom to another place uninhibited. Now, what is going on here? Why do you need this service?
Databases themselves only work or are only in existence for the small percentage of people that do the wrong thing. The majority of tenants across Australia and probably across the world do the right thing. So the total existence of databases themselves, tenant databases, is only because of that small group of people that do the wrong thing. Now, the same can be said for the new service. I listened to what was said by the Tenants Union, and they're totally out of kilter with it. There's nothing illegal about it. The members that are listing people on the database or on this program are listing them on an internal program. The legislation in place in New South Wales and indeed other states is for listing an individual on a database company that the database company broadcasts that information out.
Hang on, I'm getting confused. What I'd like to know, though, is the way that it's working at the moment. Chris said that if a tenant tried to make contact with another agent, that their details are automatically filtered out through this network. Now, is people's information being trafficked on this network without their knowledge?
Not as far as I'm aware. Not as far as I'm aware. We advise members to always advise a tenant what they're doing with their personal information. We can't police that because with this particular service here, we don't trade in that information. It's a program that we've designed, built, and allowed our members to use. Why
have you built it? What problem are you trying to anticipate?
What happens is that's what I was trying to say before, there's a small group of people, small group of tenants that do the wrong thing. They do the dreaded midnight skip. They disappear in the middle of the night onto another unsuspecting landlord or agent. Right? This system here restricts those people's movements. If you've got a good tenant, or if you've got any tenant indeed, and the tenant goes out and applies for another property, that tenant is required to fill out a tenancy application form to be processed. That tenant's required to provide the previous agent as a reference. The agent they're applying to then contacts the previous agent to make sure, to find out what they were like as a tenant.
But I think that's the system as it's been working, and you've explained it very well. But why have this new trigger as well? Why is it necessary, given the other arrangements are in place?
Because of the problems that are being associated with people doing the midnight skip. For that small group of people that are doing the wrong thing. And what they're able to do is go out into the marketplace, obtain another property whilst they still owe the current agent a vast amounts of monies.
All right, look, thanks very much, Philip. It's been good to hear your side of the story.
No problem at all.
Philip Nunes is Managing Director of TICA Australia. It's 10:20 on 702 ABC Sydney. Now, you heard really, I think, the sound of the power and authority of this organisation, TICA, when we spoke to Philip Nunes, the Managing Director of TICA, and he was dealing with issues raised by the Tenants Union. There's no doubt that tenants have very much the lesser hand when it comes to the problem of finding a place to live in Sydney. Suzanne, good morning.
Oh, good morning, Deborah. How are you?
Good, thanks. Now, you came up against the power of TICA.
I did. I really did. And when I listened to this man from TICA speak, I was absolutely horrified. I had to pull over and give you a call. We were renting high-end rental in Sydney, a very nice property. We had a swimming pool with major problems. It was costing us a fortune per fortnight on top of our rent. time and time again, we went to our real estate agent, we emailed them, we wrote letters, and nothing was done about it. So we decided to quietly go and look for somewhere else to live before we handed in and decided to break our lease. When we found a property and applied, the property manager called us to the office and, thought our application was fantastic, but told us that we were actually on the system ticker. We had been reported from our agent as being more or less a nuisance. I was absolutely horrified that we had complaints. We'd actually made complaints about the property. They couldn't go into great detail, but I know it was about the swimming pool. And this continued for about 3 applications for different properties.
So each time that was enough?
Each time we applied, our name was on ticker. We had to get our name off that. We couldn't get our name off that for 3 years. That's where we were stuck for 3 years. So actually we ended up renting privately, which was just wonderful. But, luckily we're not in the renting zone anymore. We have our own home. But it was just a really, really horrible experience, and we kept that home so beautifully. The garden was beautiful. We enjoyed it, except for the pool was costing us a lot of money, and that was the only problem we had. We just couldn't get calls back from our property manager. We had lots of problems in regards to our agent. But then we were put onto this ticker, whatever it is, and it was just revolting.
Susan,
it was really awful.
Susan,
it was such a personal, horrible, gut-wrenching experience.
Susan, thank you so much for ringing in and making us feel it. I'm very interested.
It was really awful. I just think that man that spoke in regard to, obviously, that runs the company, he has just got no idea.
All right. Thank you so much, Susan. And that's a real insight into how it really feels to be, even in the high end of property rental in Sydney. You can't escape the tentacles of ticker. It's 18 past 10. It's not. What am I saying? It's 23 past 10. The morning's flying on 702 ABC Sydney.